Hey guys, it's Sam with Flat Fee Landlord here. I wanted to just make a quick video and talk to you today about whether you should use your real estate agent to help you find your next tenant for your rental property. Alright, so a few things to consider when you're ready to find a tenant for your rental and you want to figure out who the best person is to help you find that next tenant. I want to go over a few things to consider before making that decision so that you ultimately eliminate all risk possible and have a safe, smooth transition from your tenant and going into the management service. Alright, so the very most important thing, is your agent available to help you find your next tenant? This is going to be critical when you're in the particular spring and summertime season, just because that is pretty much when the bulk of the most real estate transactions occur. So if they are a real estate agent, they're most likely going to try to capitalize during this time of year because that is going to be where the bulk of their income is going to be coming. So you want to make sure, one, do they have a lot of sale listings? And two, are they working with a lot of buyers? Because if that is the case, where they have a lot of listings and a lot of people that are looking for purchases, then that really is going to be bringing the urgency to get your home probably towards the bottom of their list, because at the end of the day it's just not going to make them the same amount of money as it does working with a sale. So that's going to be a very critical thing to think about, since working with a leasing agent, you're working with somebody who is just doing nothing but listing homes for rent, and that is going to be the extent of it. So you're going to be working with someone who only deals with rentals. Now, the other factor you want to also consider is going to be the tools to be able to properly screen an application. So if you're working with an agent who really doesn't do rentals, they may not have something. They'll most likely just try and find a program through Google or something like that, or something that another agent refers them to use, and kind of go off of that, where they're going to check most likely the basics, which is going to be credit, and if you're lucky, a rental history to see if they've ever been evicted or not. So just kind of on the positive side in terms of using a leasing agent or a property manager, is we do have a dedicated software where it is integrated with our daily software that we actually use, and it's going to be able to identify a number of things that do include the credit. However, it's also going to talk about or show up with other things such as their debt to income ratio, their previous rental history, reaching out to previous landlords, also if there's any judgments or liens on them, the whole 9 yards. So it's going to be something that's going to be a very if you are working with an agent, most likely a very generic report, or with the property manager where they do have a more in-depth type of program to be able to identify a good applicant versus a bad one. So that's another thing to consider. Alright, now the next thing you also want to think about is something that really isn't considered too often, but it's going to ultimately save you a lot of money if you do utilize it properly, and that is, does your real estate agent have a specialized lease that's going to be a very landlord friendly lease? So what that's going to do is put a bulk of the responsibility on your tenant. Now, if you are working with a dedicated real estate agent that primarily focuses on sales, they most likely won't have access to this, because what they will have access to is going to be state written documents, which is a very generic lease, and for the most part it's a pretty 50-50 lease, where it's going to put you, the landlord, at a lot more risk to pay for repairs that if you use, let's say, our lease, which is a very landlord friendly lease, it's going to help you save a lot of money throughout the life of that lease, because again, a lot of the responsibility is put on the tenant to have them repair things. So that is a very critical piece, where if you are looking to have your rental property be ultimately a business, this is going to help you eliminate those unnecessary expenses that you could run into. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is going to be how much does your real estate agent really care whether you have a good tenant in there or a bad one. Now, if you think about this, it's going to make pretty good sense. If you're working with a real estate agent, their job is to just find you a tenant, and that's going to be the extent of it. So ultimately, I understand that there's a relationship that they want to build with you, and hopefully they try to earn your business for as long as you are ultimately there to buy or sell a house. But if you think about this, your real estate agent is going to just find you a tenant. So they're going to find somebody who is going to be willing to sign that lease, submit the funds, and just kind of wipe their hands clean of it and just say good luck to you after they move in. Where a property manager is out for your best interest, because at the end of the day, the applicant or the tenant that's moving in is ultimately not going to be your headache, but it's going to be ours. So we are just as vested in terms of finding a good quality tenant, just as bad as you want one, because again, we don't want problem tenants that's going to suck a lot of our time out of our day, just going over things that could be easily avoided by doing a proper background screening and also interviewing previous landlords to make sure that these things don't occur. So again, you want to think about how important is it to find a good tenant and who really has the best intentions for you when it comes to finding that tenant. Somebody who is just going to find a tenant and walk away and maybe call you back in a year, or somebody who's going to be taking on that tenant for the next 12 to however many years they end up living in there. So these are some things to think about when you are weighing your options between whether you should use your agent or use a professional leasing service to help you find your next tenant in your property. So if you have any questions about anything that I just spoke about, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to go over any scenarios or questions that you may have. And I'll see you on the next video. Talk to you soon. Bye.